Hey everyone, it's Matt from Colossum Books here. Before I get started with the video, there is a long overdue introduction for you guys. This is my kitty. This is Jericho, we call him Coco. But I know, I've heard you guys loud and clear. His official introduction, oh, he's a little sleepy. But we played for a couple hours this morning, so he's probably a little sleepy. And now he just kind of looks out the window and relax, so I'm gonna let him do that. But yes, this is my kitty. Say hi. Say hello. Oh, who is that? Okay. We actually found him 2 days before my dissertation defense. I was working at a local coffee shop, and my partner texted me. She's like, I'll come, we'll do a study date. I'll sit there, keep you company while you finish up your presentation and your preparation. I was like, that's amazing, can't wait to see you. So I'm sitting there at the coffee shop, and it's taking her a little bit longer to get there than normal, but I'm like, whatever, she's busy maybe. And I get a FaceTime from her, which is not typical. Usually we will schedule a FaceTime, but we won't randomly FaceTime each other. So I'm at this coffee shop. I don't like answering FaceTimes in a coffee shop or in public or whatever, but I'm like, okay, this might be important. This could be something serious. So I answer it, and she kind of does this. She's like this with the little kitten. And back then he was just a little speck of dust. He was so small. He's like twice the size now that he was when we found him. And we weren't sure what we were gonna do with him at first. Our plan was always to get a cat, but we weren't really quite sure when the right time was. We're gonna wait till we moved first to do that. But we found him 2 days before my dissertation defense. He's like, good luck. He's good luck. Anyway, that's Coco. I'm glad you guys got to finally meet him. Coco, okay, say hi. Want to say hi? I've always been a dog person. I've had dogs my whole life. I've always loved cats, but I've never had one because when I was younger, I was really allergic to them. Since I've actually been dating my partner for the past couple of years, I always make a joke that she's been microdosing me with cat hair because she owns cats. The more I hung out with her, the less and less of a reaction I had, and now I have no reactions, allergic reactions to the cat at all. He'll sleep next to my head, he'll, climb all over me, and I get no reactions at all, which is really nice. Okay, anyway, enough about the cat. The reason I want to make this video is because I just recently had the most amazing reading experience. It was, at least over here in New York the other day, it started to get really chilly. It was around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is for Celsius, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is in Celsius, but I know what it is in vibes. So it's chilly out, it was overcast, it was just, it was quiet out, it was kind of the morning, I think around 10, 11 in the morning, and it was just really at that time started to me feel like, oh my god, fall is coming, autumn is finally coming, and I am a huge fall person. October is my favorite month by far, not even close. Being out here in the northeast of the US, the changing colors are just gorgeous. I look forward to it every year. It's just my favorite thing in the whole world. I look forward to it every year. It's my highlight of the year, and I was starting to really feel those vibes. So what I did, I got a cup of coffee, I got out a sweatshirt, and I sat outside and I just read some spooky books, and it was awesome. It was exactly what I needed. I say that now, it's hot as hell now. It's 80 degrees out now, and just not what I was feeling then. But it's still that kind of flip the switch in my brain that made me just, it's fall now. Sorry, it's fall. I don't know what to tell you guys. And that's what the vibes have been. I've been watching scary movies, I've been reading scary books, I've been, looking at pumpkin shit and decor and smelling fall-based smells. And I'll be like this until damn near December, so sorry. And the first book that I read was on that fateful fall day, or the beginning of fall day, and I really was I want to read something that reminds me of fall. That's a little spooky, gets you in that kind of autumn mindset. And that I read was Shirley Jackson's We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I think Shirley Jackson in the past 10 years or so has kind of seen a little bit of she's kind of re-entering public dialogue. Like, she's always been popular, but I think in the last 10 years she's kind of surged in popularity. I think partly because that's when Penguin released the classics for Shirley Jackson. That being said, it's really great. Like, if you're looking for like a Halloween type spooky book, like, this is the perfect book to do it. I read this in like 2 days, 2 or 3 sittings, and it is just it's an amazing little experience. You know, it's super atmospheric, it's very creepy, it's very it's a little spooky here and there, and it's very interesting, and it keeps you engaged the whole time. It was a nice little break from reading Infinite Jest, for sure. The premise of this book, if you haven't heard about it already, is 2 sisters who live and their uncle, who live in this kind of secluded, enormous house next to this village. And the people in the village hate the sisters, absolutely despise them. The opening monologue is the main character, Mary Cat, going down to the village and kind of just like retelling her experience of going down in the village and how she was treated, and how all the villagers are just so nasty and purposefully, antagonistic towards her, make songs about her, that are like widespread throughout the village. So you get this really, strong inclination that she is not welcome in the village. But you don't know if she deserves it. You don't know why. You just know that you can kind of just sense that something is off. I actually think that there's a good amount to kind of digest and dissect in this book. Shirley Jackson actually has a lot to say about like wealth inequality in this book. Also part like maybe the judicial system a little bit. I'm not sure if that's what she was playing at, but that's kind of how I interpreted the book. Another thing that I found interesting about this book is I was reading some stuff about Shirley Jackson afterwards and listening to some podcasts about her life, is that she had really debilitating agoraphobia, where she was really afraid of like the public and going outdoors. And it really, reading that after I read this book, I kind of wish I read that fact before I read this book, because there's some one of the characters in the book is like really deathly afraid of leaving her garden or leaving her house. But the fact that Shirley Jackson has really debilitating agoraphobia will certainly enhance your perspective of this book when you read it. The main reason to read this book is just to really get kind of that atmosphere. She lives there alone with her sister and her cat, which it's funny reading this book now that I have a cat. And Jonas, the cat in this book, is another little black cat. All his little mannerisms and stuff, I recognize now that I have a cat. I'm like, oh, Coco does that too. Made it a little extra special. But I would totally recommend this book, especially if you're trying to get into the fall spooky vibes. This book, definitely recommend. Super quick, creepy, fun, atmospheric. I would say go for it. Earlier in the year, I think around March, I read Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Another really great, spooky, really autumnal, really fall style book. Beautifully written. I didn't end up making a long form video on this book, but I should have. I really loved this book. I mean, you can tell the amount of effort that Ray Bradbury put into each sentence of this book. It's that's some people's critique of this book, is that it's overwritten. I didn't read it that way. I thought it was completely beautiful. Keeping reading each separate sentence as a work of poetry I thought was amazing. I really enjoyed this book, and the main characters and their relationships with their father, and especially all of the spooky, creepy vibes. I know also people don't like the ending of this book, which I would say it's just a fun ending. There's nothing wrong with a fun ending every once in a while, I don't know. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I read Something Wicked This Way Comes early in the year, and it has really set off my craving for reading more Bradbury. And I don't have it here, but I am between reading either The Halloween Tree or Dandelion Wine this fall. They're both really quick. This should be really fast, and they are small. But that is, in my craving for more autumnal, spooky October literature, Ray Bradbury is definitely up there. My cousin really recommends Dandelion Wine to me. Like, my cousin always refers Dandelion Wine to me as like this super optimistic, nostalgic experience, which I really loved about Something Wicked. Is I know the name is really, it's a Shakespeare quote, but it's like really daunting and like creepy sounding, and the book is creepy. But what I really loved about this book was its hopefulness, its optimism, and that really drew me towards Ray Bradbury's writing, especially because I read this book after I read The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner, which is not an optimistic book at all, and also Giovanni's Room, two books that were really devastating to read. So reading this afterwards was just like the perfect little soul hug I needed. So I'm thinking about Dandelion Wine or Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. So let me know in the comments which one you read and which one you prefer. I have a feeling that'll probably be Halloween Tree. So that was the first book I read in these past 2 weeks. I actually read a second book in these past 2 weeks that wasn't Infinite Jest. I finished it yesterday, and I gotta say, like, I loved it. This might be in my top 5 for the year, but we'll have to see. That book is Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. I mean, I have read Vonnegut in the past. I think this is my third Vonnegut I've read. I've read Slaughterhouse-Five, of course, and I think I've read Cat's Cradle. I think in my freshman year of college, or maybe my senior year of high school. But I don't really remember much of it, and I'd probably have to reread it. But this book is like really amazing. Like, it's really, I remember the Book Chemist, who's another amazing YouTuber, on his introduction to postmodernism video, he mentioned that this is one of the 2 Vonnegut books you could read that is a good representation of like introductory postmodernism, and I really, really agree with that. It's a funky little book. It starts with 2 characters, Kilgore Trout, which is a character in other novels that Vonnegut has written, mainly Slaughterhouse-Five, and Dwayne Hoover. Kilgore Trout is a reclusive science fiction author who makes these really crazy, off-the-wall books, but has never been successful. And Dwayne Hoover, who is a very, very prominent, super rich businessman, Pontiac dealer, but owns half the businesses in this town called Midland City, who takes all of Kilgore Trout's reading as reality. He reads his books as if it's really happening to him in real life, and he's starting to lose his marbles a little bit, which is a cool premise as it is. However, that is not the good part about this book. The great part about this book, and I don't want to spoil it too much because you really should read it because it's quick, it's easy to read, and it's fun, is that the narrator, Kurt Vonnegut himself, inserts himself into the book quite often, to the point where he is sitting there at the bar with the other 2 characters, musing about how he controls them. It really changes the lens of how you read this book. Like, he'll sit there and he'll say like, this character did this because I control him and I can do, and I felt like he should do that. He kind of really hammers in this notion that like everybody in this book is playing to his will, basically. Like, he is writing what they do, and then everything that happens in the book, kind of, you sit there and you start to realize like, oh, Vonnegut is the one who made him do this. It really makes you rethink intention and plot. Like, it makes you think of how like authors are basically kind of like the gods of their own stories, everything that happens to these characters, you sit there and you think like, oh, that happened because Vonnegut wanted that to happen, like Vonnegut made that happen. What was the point of that? Like, why is he doing that to this character? I'm editing right now, and one thing I wanted to say that I kind of just forgot while I was rambling is that the book increasingly becomes more and more about Vonnegut. You get less of the narrative of the characters and more of Vonnegut's kind of like musing as his creator of like the whole universe that you're reading about. And it's interesting because some of the things in like Kilgore Trout's book, like, technically start becoming true because Vonnegut is doing it through like his will as the creator of the universe, which means that this delusion that Dwayne Hoover has, that these books are a reflection of reality, is like not actually a delusion. So it gets really weird and super meta, and just go check it out. And it kind of reminds me of some of the discussion that came up about that book A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, which I have not read, but I frankly have no interest in reading. But how people were upset with her about how she kind of like plays God in this really cruel way to these characters that she's written. And I'm not going to get into all the other stuff about that book. I have no interest in reading that book, and I never will. But it kind of like reminded me of like the dynamic between the author and the characters in the book and the reader, right? Like each faction has a very pivotal part in the reading experience, right? But what this book does a really good job on is like making you question the author's intentions on everything that happens in the book. And that was the coolest experience for me. There's also some, I think to varying degrees of success, kind of just Vonnegut being a grumpy old guy, musing about, well, he wasn't old when he wrote this book, he was 50 when he wrote this book, but musing about, different social struggles at the time. A lot of this book is, and I hate to sound like the YouTube essay guy, but like a lot of this book is definitely about capitalism and about how a lot of these troubles that happen in people's lives are for the pursuit of money. I think that Dwayne Hoover as a character, especially towards the end, when he starts to think everyone else is a machine and he's the only one with free will, which is not a spoiler because they talk about it in the first like 2 or 3 pages of the book, and how everyone else's ambitions are secondary to him because they're all robots meant for his pleasure, I think is kind of Vonnegut's kind of indictment of capitalism and that capitalistic mindset. But I would really encourage you to read this book because I would say that Slaughterhouse-Five is a better novel. I think it's just a better crafted novel, a better experience. I will say that I think I like this one more though, just on a personal level. I think that it's just a more fun read, a more mentally like fun experience. And I have to thank my good friend Nick for recommending me this book. So thanks so much, Nick. I really enjoyed it. If you ever find this YouTube channel. But yeah, 100% would recommend. You might see this on my top 5 at the end of the year. You might not. We'll see. I want to talk really quickly about 3 books that I plan to read in the upcoming weeks. Now that I'm taking Infinite Jest a little bit slower, it's much easier for me to squeeze in other reading. I recently got a Barnes & Noble gift certificate. So my favorite thing to do in the whole damn world is to go to Barnes & Noble with a gift card or a gift certificate or whatever, and just walk around and with the ability to buy any book that I find remotely interesting. So I really make a big thing of it. I go there, I get like a hot chocolate or a cup of coffee, and I put my headphones in and I just peruse the whole damn store. And there's an enormous one near my house. So I was in between a couple of different books. Well, the 2 books that I was really deciding between, one of them was Wasteland by Wasteland by TS Elliot, Wasteland is one poem, but it came in a poem collection, and the other one was a Zadie Smith book. And I ended up picking Zadie Smith on Beauty. Reason being, I sat down with both of those books, and I read the first couple of pages in the Wasteland by T.S. Elliot, which I enjoyed, but I read the first 5-10 pages of On Beauty, and I was just hooked. It was so compelling and well written, and the characters were so lifelike. And I ended up sitting there and reading like 40 or 50 pages in this book, which is crazy, you know. I mean, you guys know me, I'm a slow reader. But, you know, it's interesting. It's different from the books I normally read in that it's much more modern. I think this came out in 2012. Oh, 2005. Okay. So it came out in 2005. So this will be the most contemporary book I've read in the past, I don't know. I have no idea. The past 10 years maybe. I was so enchanted by the writing and the characters in this book that I just wanted to go home and tear it apart and just go through the whole thing. Like, I've heard amazing things about Zadie Smith, but you know, reading it for myself was an eye-opening experience. So I have to get through the whole thing. Also, it starts in the fall semester of a school year, so sure, perfect for fall too. It's interesting because it's so contemporary. It's written in a very different style than I'm used to. Like the writing is much more modern. It has a little bit more of a modern voicing to it, which I'm not used to. You know, usually I'm reading older books. It's written much more like I understand the cultural references. It's much younger sounding, but it's still written very beautifully and very believable, and that's what I really drew me to this book. Because I kind of feel like oftentimes with like really modern books, the voice is just kind of obnoxious. Sometimes it's like too sarcastic or it's too modern and contemporary, and I didn't feel that with this. I felt like this is modern and contemporary, but still very charming and very well and beautifully written. So can't wait to get into this. Maybe the next book I will read, maybe not. We'll see. Okay, 2 books I'm gonna get through quickly, I promise. I'm at 25 minutes. I do this every time, man. So this next one, it's a meme book. Everyone talks about it. I'm ashamed I haven't read it yet, but this book to me, especially the cover art, screams like melancholy, thoughtful, October vibes, okay? And that is Stoner by John Williams. I know, go ahead. I just know that people fucking love the shit out of this book. I'm gonna give it a try. I absolutely adore this cover art. I think it's so good. And before I even knew anything about this book, I wanted to read it because of this cover art. I also think like it's gonna be a good book to read during this transition period in my life where I am pursuing academia and pursuing research. I might do some teaching and stuff. From what I understand, it's about a guy who's trying to search for meaning in his life and just trying to be really like a good person. I think to me that'll be particularly relevant, you know, as I move on to the next part of my life, this next challenging part where I am pursuing something similar in academia. So I'm excited. I've heard amazing things about this book, and you know, this cover is just, it's so good. Lastly, I know I really rambled on this video, and I apologize for my rambling. Every fall I get, I haven't read him in a long time, but someone who also reminds me of fall is Shakespeare, because I think most of my reading of Shakespeare was in my fall semesters of school. So like my freshman year of school, my freshman and sophomore year of college, and in high school. Usually my English classes, we start with a couple Shakespeare books. So reading Shakespeare really brings me back to fall. And I haven't read him in a number of years, but what I'm thinking I'm gonna do this weekend is I'm going to read Macbeth, and I'm gonna watch that adaptation of Macbeth with, who is it? I don't wanna get it wrong. I think, is it Denzel Washington? Isn't it? But my cousin recommended me to watch that movie or that video adaptation of Macbeth. I think what I'll end up doing this weekend is I'll probably like sit down, go through this book quickly. It's a play. It's meant to be read in one sitting, so I'll probably read it in one sitting, and then right after I'll probably watch the movie adaptation. That to me sounds like a good time, and is also a sign that I'm getting way older, because I'm gonna read Shakespeare and then watch a Shakespeare movie all in one night, and I think that's like a nice, enjoyable night. What is happening to me? Sorry, I just had an existential crisis there. I'm getting old, but that's okay. It's good to get old. So those are my fall reads. I might read more here or there. I've been having like a second win with reading lately, and I've been really enjoying it lately, and waking up looking forward to it every day. This chance to be a little bit more relaxed lately, finishing up work, has given me the opportunity to kind of dive headfirst into these books and really dissect them and put a lot of time into them. So really grateful for these last couple weeks, and really grateful to hang out with my cat and read and be a little bit more relaxed lately. I hope you guys have a good or if you're a student, I hope you have a good start to the semester. Study hard, do your best. Everyone else, I hope that you enjoy this beginning of fall. I hope it's a little bit cooler near you than it is for me. I'm already in the fall mode, as you can see, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. And just one more time, let me just, my sleepy guy. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll talk to y'all soon.